Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the I Do Music podcast, and our goal and our mission is to empower and educate musicians and artists worldwide. And on today's episode, we're sitting down with DJ and on-air personality DJ Nabs discussing touring with Michael Jackson on the Dangerous Tour, the nightclub culture in Atlanta, and what it takes to be a successful DJ. Hey, this is Sammy with the I Do Music podcast, and I'm sitting down with legendary DJ and radio personality, DJ Nabs.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. DJ Nabs in the lab.
Yes, that's me.
How you doing?
I'm feeling good.
Good?
Very good, yep.
Yeah. We were just talking about all that you do, and I'm excited to share with the world all that you do.
Thanks.
It's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So you're originally from North Carolina.
From Durham, Walltown to be exact.
Right? Really?
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of it.
I know.
Walltown, okay. Small town, I assume.
Yeah, Walltown is a neighborhood, but there's a wall that circles one part of Duke University. I know you've heard of Duke.
Yeah, of course,
yeah.
Absolutely. That's dope. So what brought you to Atlanta?
In high school, I was a DJ for a group called the Icy Girls. And one of the young ladies, well, it was a girl that did the rapping, Frosty. There was a girl that did the beatbox, and her name was Tawanda. And Frosty ended up getting a record deal. And the name of her song was I Need Love Now, which was an answer record to LL Cool J's I Need Love.
Yeah.
So, as you can imagine, that record got played every time LL Cool J's record got played. So we did a bunch of touring and stuff and made some money.
In high school?
In high school on the weekends.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of my introduction to the business, but also, the bug bit me bad. So after Frosty decided not to do it anymore, she didn't record any more songs, I moved to Atlanta.
Wow.
In '88 to try to pursue this music thing, yeah.
So tell me about you first starting off as a DJ, because did you just say, these girls are looking for a DJ, let me learn, or how did that work?
Well, I started in the 10th grade, so that was '84.
Okay.
And I do not mind telling my age.
No, it's cool.
But I got to, because it's part of it. I bought the first rap record. I was 10 years old, so that's 1979. So at that time, hip-hop was just making its way across the country however you could receive it. And people had a choice, or kids had a choice of what you wanted to do. Some did it all, MC'd or rapped, breakdance, graffiti, and DJ. And I just made one choice, and that was to become a DJ. So I started doing the house parties, the typical things, selling mixtapes, and really I would DJ for anybody who I thought was good. So Frosty was one of those groups, or the Icy Girls were one of those groups. The difference was she got an actual record deal on Tommy Boy Records. So that meant we did shows with Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince.
Wow. And
2 Live Crew, and Dana Dane, and Clark Kent with the DJ for Dana Dane. So I met DJ Clark Kent and UTFO.
How did your parents feel about all this at the time?
My mom, she knew I loved music. I played, sax since the 6th grade.
Oh, really?
And she didn't understand what I was doing with the turntable in the back of the room. And I say turntable because I only had one at first. And so I learned to scratch before I learned to mix. So she just accepted it and just allowed me the freedom to figure it out.
Wow. So one thing that people, I'm sure, really highlight in your career, and you spoke about touring at an early age, but you went on to tour for so many people, including one of the greatest of all time, Michael Jackson.
Right. So I got to tell that story.
Please.
It's an interesting story to me because technically I was the DJ for Criss Cross.
Okay.
And in 1992, when Criss Cross's single Jump, and then later the album really took off, Michael Jackson invited Criss Cross to be the opening act for the Dangerous Tour in Europe in 1992. Criss Cross initially was slated to be the opening act for Joe Public, which was a band that was signed to the same label as Criss Cross, which is Rough House Records, because Jermaine didn't have So So Def Records yet. So that was a big jump for Criss Cross. And of course, it was a huge thing for me because I just became the DJ for Criss Cross. So I was on the Michael Jackson tour with Criss Cross. And because Criss Cross was expected to do 40 minutes, I actually had a 10-minute set in between to rock the crowd by myself.
Wow.
And more importantly, I would say somewhere in the early 2000s, I got the VHS tape from our old road manager, Bobby Sanders, who gave me a copy of the shows we did in Europe on the Michael Jackson
That's so
tour. So
dope.
now I had the proof,
Yeah.
so to speak. And because I'm into documentaries and I've documented my career pretty well. When Michael Jackson died, I put out a DVD called Diary of a Mad DJ. And in that, I had a tribute to Michael Jackson. And from there, people recognized me or started to recognize me as the DJ that toured with Michael Jackson. It was not something that I
Intended.
intended.
Yeah. I saw the Diary of a Mad DJ.
Oh, okay.
The DVD that you still have that available too. What all is encompassed in that that documentary, I guess.
Yeah, that was my full story that I envisioned was American DJ story. And at the time, I wasn't sure how to move forward with getting some sort of deal, HBO or Showtime or whatever. So I decided to put out kind of a street DVD, and I didn't put majority of my documentation on that. But what I put on there was my tribute to Michael Jackson, some of my travels overseas, and kind of messages to the DJs, different little things. So it was kind of like a preview
Of what's to come.
of what's to come. And it took a life of its own because people love Michael Jackson so much that in its own way, that DVD was a promotional vehicle for me to be able to go to Taiwan and Paris and Russia by myself with my white glove on and do a set in tribute to Michael Jackson because people were like, "You're the DJ that toured with Michael Jackson. We want to see you."
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's your white glove.
With my white glove. Yeah, when I put my white glove on, I have to channel Mike.
That's dope.
Just do it in my own way.
Right. So you're multifaceted, obviously. You DJ'd, you have producer credits, you have, a multitude of things. You're on-air personality for Boom 1029, classic hip-hop, one of my favorite stations. Yes,
cool.
Like
Very
you always
cool.
play good stuff.
Thank you.
Let's talk about you being exclusive, or how you got to be the exclusive DJ for So So Def. Like, we all know in Atlanta that's like
Sure.
that was a major part of Atlanta hip-hop history.
History, right.
Yeah, so tell us about that. You were with DeBrad, Escape during that time.
Yeah. Shout out to Jermaine Dupri and his father, Michael Malden. I just think Atlanta's a small, closely knit community. And especially at that time because it wasn't as much going on as it is now. So being Crisscross's DJ and then Jermaine getting his actual label and signing Escape and Brat and later Bow Wow, and then even Jermaine doing his own project and even Jagged, I was just in-house already. And so I was there when we had the show with Ed Lover as an opening act, and he had the $100 rap contest, and Brat won that contest. And Brat came backstage and was introduced to Chris and Chris. So I was there when we found Brat, literally. And so it just kind of made sense. It was really Jermaine saying, "Oh, hey, we want to go on the road. Do I want to go on the road with Escape? Sure. We want to go on the road with Brat." And of course, we did a So So Def family tour. I'm the DJ and music director, because really, that's really what it kind of boiled down to in terms of putting the show together conceptually with Jermaine, and then later on my own with the acts, and then going on stage to perform conceptually what we kind of practice.
Right.
If that makes sense. So it was just something that kind of happened naturally.
Tell us about, I guess, when you moved down to Atlanta, your first experience in trying to get your feet wet in the industry, because I think that's probably the story that, for most of our listeners, they're at that point, like, we're trying to get our feet wet.
Sure. I think this is a huge thing I'm gonna say right now. I think when I run into people, I think they want to get associated with whoever the name brand person is. They want to get close to that rapper. They want to get close to that Grammy-winning producer or this label. And I always say that it's the people that's right beside you that's really going to come up with you. And for me, I was at school at Morris Brown here. I was DJing wherever I could. That was also the era of DJ battles, so I went and won $1 million DJ battle. I got in this battle. I did everything I could. I mixed on B103, which is the only station in town. As far as commercial radio at that time, I did a mix show on there for free. I worked in a nightclub for $200 a week, and I had a regular job, and I was in the 116th Army National Guard Band playing my saxophone and going to Morris Brown with a saxophone music scholarship. This was everything I was doing before Crisscross. But how did I get with Crisscross? Well, Speech from Arrested Development was in a group called Secret Society. He went to the Music Business Institute. His father and his mother, I think they own a newspaper in Milwaukee where he's from. And, they provided Speech with the means to produce his own records. And literally records that would get delivered in boxes. And eventually, to make a long story short, Speech and Headliner, who were the members of Secret Society, got introduced to Mike Malden through Crystal, who was the original member of TLC, because Crystal and Headliner were dating. And Michael Malden started managing Speech. They changed their name to Arrested Development. However, they got to that point. They released the single Tennessee. I remixed Tennessee. I had to meet Mike Malden to get my $1,000 for that remix. I gave Mike my demo tape, and he said, "We looking for a group called Crisscross, and Jermaine listens to you on V103 on the Fresh Party." Bam.
Wow.
It wasn't a red carpet event. It wasn't me trying to chase no rappers that already made it. Mm-hmm. It was just life. Yeah. And my time. When my time came, I showed up and delivered. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to. Right?
And I think that's what you got to do to get back to now. I don't think it's a focus on who's already made it. I think it's about relationships with the people you're working with right now that may not be able to do anything for you at this time. Yeah. But you'll find that generationally, this is how artists and situations and studios and they all come up together.
Right. Definitely, I agree. So talk about what you're doing now with Boom 1029. You're not only a DJ, but you're also a personality at this point. Right. Talk about being a DJ and a personality and how a lot of times you hear like if someone's looking for a DJ, they need to have like the mic skills, like somebody who can get on the mic and turn the crowd up.
Right. My story behind that is Jerry Smoking B, who's a mentor and a great friend of mine and a radio legend himself. Mm-hmm. He told me a long time ago that there was power in the microphone. And before Crisscross, I was just a DJ, and I was fine with that. I was fine with controlling those turntables like an instrument. That was my thing. Mm-hmm. And being that I was a sax player, that was my thing. And so Jerry was the first one to kind of really put that in my head, but it didn't really come to fruition for me until my mixes would be played on the radio and the personality wouldn't say my name. Mm-hmm. That's the only payment I'm getting. Mm-hmm. I'm not getting any money. So if you don't say my name, I'm not even getting acknowledgement for the mix. Right. And that's when I started to fight early on to become an air personality as well as mix on air. And then Crisscross itself also changed the dynamic for me because the Michael Jackson tour, which was our first tour and my first real tour, Chris and Chris were 13. They were going to say their rhymes and that was it. Hey, y'all good? How y'all doing? They were kids and they were great at what they had to do. Don't get me wrong. They didn't engage with the audience, and so I had to be the one. And after those 3 months in Europe on that tour, I came back very confident in my ability now to control a crowd or speak to a crowd. And so I've been an air personality and I've been a MC/DJ ever since those times.
So you feel like you were like kind of thrown out there on that tour?
Sure.
Just in the water like, all right,
most definitely.
Sink or swim.
No question. No question about it.
What do you think, or how do you think you as a person were prepared to do that? Like, what is it in you that allowed you to, it's no time to be humble. Just tell us what skills or think about it.
Well, I'm competitive. I'm competitive. I like to win. It is part of my DNA to rise to the challenge. And I see memes all the time, especially on Instagram, that talk about if it doesn't scare you, it's not going to take you to the next level or something like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that goes all the way to now. We haven't talked about what I do now in terms of amateur boxing, but we were talking about that a little bit before we got started, and it's the same thing. It's the fear that makes you rise to the challenge, and performing on stage. There's always still that fear now that something could go wrong. or maybe my performance is not going to be what it's supposed to be, but that gets you ready, it gets you sharp, gets your mind focused.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so as a young man, that was already there.
Yeah. Let's talk about amateur boxing.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get into amateur boxing? What was it for you that was like, all right, I think I'm going to try this boxing thing?
Well, it's this, I think it's the same thing in relation to when you asked me about stepping up to the challenge of the Michael Jackson tour, for instance, and the 75,000 people not having experience dealing with that sort of crowd. The person in me is always looking for a new challenge or a new adventure, and I say that my boxing started when I stopped drinking. Really, to be honest with you, because years of being a DJ, and there was a time in Atlanta I was doing 5-6 clubs a week where I drank every night. You know what I mean? And that began to take its toll in many ways. So 12 years ago, I made that change to not drink. And 6 years later, after that, I started boxing. And I just think one thing led to another. Sobriety, getting older, wanting to make myself healthier.
Right.
And, look better.
Right.
And then boxing came, and I was in the best situation mentally and physically to address it without having something like a drinking lifestyle still in play, because I'm sure that would have made it much harder for me. So I started actually doing it because of a celebrity boxing offer that was made to me, and then I've been doing it ever since. So I've done 3 matches, won the first 2, lost the last one by decision.
By decision.
By decision. Let me make
Let's
that
make it
clear.
clear.
Make that clear. I didn't score quite enough points, but
So
yeah.
you also do this for charity. A lot of like charity boxing
Actually,
matches.
the first 2 were for Atlanta Corporate Fight Night, and my charity was Covenant House,
Gotcha.
which I do a sleep out event with them every year.
What is that?
Sleep out on Thanksgiving, or right around Thanksgiving. We sleep outside all night, but we raise money beforehand, and then the sleep out is kind of like the closing ceremony where we all announce how much money we've made. And I think the last time I did last year, which was a little over 3,000, which
good.
I primarily promote through Instagram.
That's dope.
And people donate the money, then I go sleep out all night.
Wow. That's what's up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what other, or like how often are you boxing? I know it was kind of tough to get you in here in the mornings because you do what, like 3 times? You're in the gym 3 times?
Right, well, I've been at Boom 102.9 now going on 3 years, so it slowed down my boxing training.
Gotcha.
And, but I do a class 3 days a week to keep myself in there. So now, I do a class to keep myself in there, but also I do a class called Jabs and Abs with Nabs. Because people kept asking me on Instagram, so I did it.
Yeah.
I thought I was just going to do it for 6 weeks, but I've been doing it for a few months now.
That's dope.
So
you get a good turnout?
Yeah. My story on that really quickly is the first 6 weeks, 6 women, 5 guys joined. The next day, the 6 women came back and 1 guy came back.
Really?
Yeah. And the women finished the class, and then most of them stayed and did another 6 weeks.
Wow.
So I just thought that was interesting.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
It says a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you guys depict what you think that says about the class. Or you.
Nah, it is what it is. And so since then, we've just had different people floating in and out. And some people
cool.
stuck consistently with it.
That's cool. That's what's up. That's cool. I think it's important in the entertainment industry to have like another outlet aside from just because it gets anxiety, depression, or all those types of things, or even like, being that you want it to be sober, have that sobriety. I kind of am curious about that. Like, what made you say, like, okay, I'm done with drinking? Because it's such a, we know how it is in the culture. Like, there's drinks everywhere. That you're in the club. Like, that's what everybody's doing.
That's what you do.
If you're there every night, how do you avoid that? And what was your decision? Why was that your decision?
Right. I say that people have to survive success. And if you look at any of the greats out there, you'll see that people have, they mostly live a clean-cut life as they're coming up. Look at everybody's the young whomevers when they were young, you know, fresh face, and then they start to experience success because now everything is accessible and you don't even have to pay for it. Mm-hmm. So you got to survive that. And we've had many people not survive being famous and having accessibility to things. So I went to a point where it just got bad for me. Um, Blackouts. You know what I mean? I wouldn't remember where I parked my car. And we're talking about when I was doing the most successful parties and clubs in Atlanta.
Right.
This is what I was going through privately. And really, it took a conversation with my mother. You know, it wasn't any Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, it wasn't a program.
Yeah.
It was just a conversation with my mom that I didn't want to you know, live a life like my father did, whom I love totally to this day. But he did have challenges with drugs and alcohol. And he died at a young age.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'm thinking, you know, I've lived longer than my father has now. You know,
Right.
I'm at the age I am now. So that scared me. It shook me, and I did it quietly. And at the time, I was on the road with Brett. I still do shows with Brett, but at that time, we were doing a Mariah Carey tour.
Oh, yeah.
And Mariah Carey Rainbow Tour. And and I didn't say anything to Brett. I just told Brett that I was taking some medicine because we normally did shots before each show. And I did, like I said, I just did it quietly. And once I got a year under my belt, then I started kind of to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I had to get past birthdays, your birthday, because normally we go get, I'm just saying.
I feel
right?
you.
My birthday,
Yeah.
New Year's, you know, all the things that, you know,
You
going
would
out to
celebrate
clubs.
for, yeah.
So now I don't go to clubs.
Yeah.
I rock clubs, I spend all night, and then I leave.
Right.
There's nothing there, you know. And that's
feel
all
you.
over the world. Anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
It's
feel
a
you.
funny thing, but it's just the way it is.
I feel you. Yeah, that's why I think it's really important, like I said, to have another outlet. Like, for me, I work out, too, just to keep my mind, like, that's, like, my balance for me.
Yeah.
Because when you're drinking all day, every night, it's like, all right.
Yeah.
What's going to hit you one day? It's gonna
Yeah,
catch
and
up to you.
especially when you get older, you know,
Yeah.
just, you can't handle it the way you used to.
Yeah, I feel that. I respect that a lot. So let's talk about mixtapes. Mixtapes are definitely a big thing, and were a big thing when you came up as a DJ. And today may have taken on a different meaning, but how impactful or influential were mixtapes or the mixtape game for you?
Sure. So mixtapes, you know, they've had quite their own evolution. When I started doing mixtapes, they were just where you mix one song to the next, and you really showcase your DJ skills. And, of course, you put your name in it, right? And then they went through so many changes. I'll just go through some of the major ones. I would say 50 Cent introduced or made prominent the mixtape where the artist took other people's songs and redid them.
Yeah,
So
like
then,
covers.
Right, so covers. Or not really covers, but really just their own variations of it. And so then it became the artist mixtapes. And then DJs would do those mixtapes with the artists, like Drama, you know. So I can't think of every evolution, but you kind of follow what I'm saying.
Yeah.
As far as the importance of it now, I don't know, everybody can do it. I think when everyone can do it, it waters it all the way down. So there's probably better ways, I would say at this point, to make an impact and stand out. Because that's the goal. The goal is to stand out, really, amongst all of the people who really probably shouldn't be doing it in the first place.
Yeah, real DJs matter, right?
Real DJs matter.
Sure.
But real MCs matter too.
Yeah, I
you
agree.
know?
I agree. That brings me to another question, though. So after so much success over the years, like you've been in the game since basically the beginning of hip hop. Almost. Almost. You have.
That's funny.
That's dope. That's why I said legendary DJ Nabs. How do you plan to elevate your career with, or like, do you plan to elevate your career with all the people that believe that they can DJ? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you think that there's a different direction for you in terms of this space? Because there are so many people that decide to pick up a turntable and say, you know, I'm a DJ now.
Sure. To answer the first part of that, I think, you know, success and failure go together. Because they help you go to the next space. If you fail in something, you know, you may work hard at it and then eventually get there, or you may be doing something that's not that great. For a while, for instance, I did music publishing. Almost nobody knows that.
Really?
Yeah, I was working at Jermaine Dupri's father's company, Michael Malden, who's a mentor to me. Malden Brand Agency. And don't get me wrong, I still was DJing. I was in there doing production. I was doing management. I was in there doing everything Michael needed me to do. But my title was a music publisher, air control, ground control music publishing. I wasn't great at it. To me, you need to be a damn lawyer.
Right.
For the administrative side. And I wasn't great at that. And really, I went back to DJing at that time. I mean, full time after that experience, because I was like, really, I trained and I studied to be one of the greats. So continue to be great as DJ Nabs.
Right.
And that's to speak on that. So you need success and failure. And to cap that off, really, this is a lifestyle. We talked about fitness. It's a lifestyle. So everything you do is not going to work. Everything's not going to be great. Not everything's going to pop off. I did a few DJ shirts, but Real DJs Matter happened to resonate with people. Mm-hmm. So this one happened to do better than the 5 I did beforehand. You know what I mean? Because it resonated. So that's how I kind of look at it. As far as what I feel like I'm here to do, I'm here to continue to demonstrate the fundamentals of DJing. Mm-hmm. I'm also here to share my stories because I'm not going to be in the club 5-6 nights a week ever again. But I documented it. Mm-hmm. I can show you what it looked like. If you didn't know about Atlanta in the 90s, I can show you. So I get heavily involved in as many documentary projects as I can. Mm-hmm. This is a little sidebar, but there's a new documentary called Talking Black in America that I filmed that's now being screened across the country. Dope. And it'll be screened here in Atlanta in November.
Okay, I'll wait for my invite.
Yes, I'll make sure you're there. As well as the other documentaries I've done that are associated directly with the music industry.
Like VH1's Rock Docs, I wanted to ask you about that you were heavily involved, I feel like, in that documentary, specifically for Atlanta.
Right.
Tell us about that, actually.
Right, so that was ATL Rise. I can't remember the full title.
VH1 Rock
The Rise of
Docs,
Hip Hop
in Hip-Hop in Atlanta, yeah.
Yes, so I did that one. Ludacris is behind the music. Well, I licensed for that, which I talk about, and also DTP behind the music or behind the label. Mm-hmm. My involvement in ATL Rise was obviously I was featured in that, and I shared my stories, some of my story inside of that, but I also licensed the only footage that exists of Ludacris as Chris Lover Lover.
Oh, really?
Because I don't own all that footage yet. That was footage that was shot on my show. He was on my show before. He actually got his own show with Poon Daddy called Future Flavors. Mm-hmm. So him and Poon was in the lab with Nabs. And so I always document it. So for his story, for his Luda's behind the music, I licensed that. And then in ATL Rise, I licensed that footage again, as well as footage of Crisscross on the Michael Jackson.
So when you say license, for those that don't know, that are listening, what does that mean, or what does that
license means that they pay you to use it for a limited period of time, but that they do not own it, that I own it.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. So after being on the VH1 Rock Docs, it seems like they saw the value in what you do for Atlanta and for the hip-hop community. How did you feel being featured in that project amongst other legendary people in the South? How did that make you feel, I guess?
The truth is I had to fight for that, and I had to continue to fight for it until it becomes rock solid in terms of my contribution. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you, there were a lot of people in that particular documentary, and everybody can't be in one documentary, right? But there were a lot of people that felt left out, and a lot of people to this very day are trying to find ways to tell their story, because no one wants to live and work and put your art out there and put your hard work and be forgotten about. I've been in Atlanta now 30 years. I'm not from Atlanta, but I've been here working, doing what I'm doing longer than some people have been alive. Yeah. That's in Atlanta. Yeah. And I'm saying that to say that time is fleeting. And when you get older, nobody wants to be forgotten about. Mm-hmm. And my mother told me when I moved here to keep a diary, and I was literal in it. I kept calendars, notebooks, video, pictures, everything. So now I'm in a position to license and help other people like Chris Lover Lover tell his story, right? Because he didn't film himself, clearly. But there's no way Nabs is going to be forgotten. Right. And so, but people will do it. People have forgotten me. I was not in Ludacris's behind the music, and I licensed for it, right? They didn't see a need to come and film me, and I didn't have to license, but I did so that his story could be told in a way that would be good for him.
Yeah.
So on ATL Rise, I made sure I was in that, or there would be no licensing. And I'm saying that to say that moving forward, there are still many stories, like the story of Chris Kelly from Crisscross. That's my guy. I'm on a mission to make sure his story is told. And these are things that are deep in here, as in everything I've ever done or ever, felt strongly about.
Right.
So that's my mission. But you got to fight for it because people are not out here clamoring to help to tell your story, to make sure that your contributions are made. Wow. What happens is, you can lay all this groundwork, and then they'll let another person come in on top of your groundwork. And if that person is promoted and history says that he was the one, what happens to this person here? And this is not Nabs. This is Little Richard. This is Michael Jackson. This is anybody. This is why estates are here, like the Otis Redding estate. When I was with Michael Malden, we managed the Otis Redding estate.
Really?
I kind of picked up that lesson too. Yeah, they had part of the job was to bring Otis Redding's estate into the digital space to make sure that his music was inside of Guitar Hero. That digitally it was there, that online it was there.
Oh, wow.
When I go buy some boxing gear, they make Muhammad Ali shirts and his images and his messaging and his life, what he had, his messaging he's put into the world is on these shirts and stuff like that. So that's how I look at myself.
Gotcha.
But I also have enough content and I've documented enough things. I've been around Atlanta long enough that I'm able to help other people like Chris Lover do the same.
That's dope.
But we're not gonna forget about Nabs.
We're never gonna forget.
No,
about Nabs.
I'm on a mission.
DJ Nabs in the lab.
We'll fight.
Talk about DJ Nabs in the lab and the importance of the tag. Like you talked about how when you started off mixing with V103, that the personality didn't give you your due justice, right?
Right.
But then were you dropping the tag or like what was it?
Oh man, this is a good one. This is a good one. I had this conversation with DJs all the time.
Yeah.
About monikers or whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I'm influenced by DJs, great DJs before me. I mean, as well as DJs that do great work now. But, the magnificent Jazzy Jeff.
Yeah.
The Adventures of Grandmaster Flash. The Adventures of Grandmaster Flash. Like,
was it that a lot of these, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, a lot of these, the DJs' influences came from like comic books and things like that?
Yes, which is a whole thing too, right?
Okay.
Yep, for sure. And so when I started, I was DJ. Oh, okay. Do you know what Nabs are?
No.
First of all, okay.
Tell me.
Nabs are Nabisco cookies.
Oh,
it's a skinny pack of Nabs. Well, I was called a skinny pack of Nabs. That's how I got the name.
Gotcha.
And then later when I started DJing, I was DJ Nabs of Nabisco Disco. Okay? It was disco because all the clubs back then were called disco.
Discos, yeah.
And even in my neighborhood where I'm from, all the DJ crews had some sort of disco name, Strike Force Disco. You know what I mean? So I was Nabisco Disco.
Gotcha.
Later, I moved to Atlanta. There was a DJ Nab here. Noah A. Booker. Went to Morehouse, cat from New York. He was DJ Nab. I could not believe it. He didn't have an S. He was DJ Nab. So then I started calling myself DJ NABS to try to make a distinction.
Right.
Not many people even know the story. Maybe DJ Toon. Okay. Nab really was more of an MC and a promoter. So he started booking me. Then I didn't have to worry about DJ NABS anymore. Yeah. So then I was DJ Nabs. On V103, my mix show was after the Quiet Storm, so it was the Thunderstorm. I was still just DJ Nabs on the Thunderstorm. Crisscross, the whole entire Crisscross experience. I was DJ Nabs, I wore my hat backwards, I had my pants on backwards. I was trying to still find my identity in that, but I was tall. I was older than Chris and Chris. Chris and Jermaine was the same height. I come up, right? But in 1996, when Atlanta got its first rap station, Hot 97.5, I got a full-time radio job. This is when Chris Lover and Poon Daddy became sidekicks on my show. They wanted to call my show Beats, Rhymes, and Hip Hop. And my girlfriend at the time said, you always call in your studio the lab. You need to call it in the lab with Nabs. So 1996 to now, that's how long I've had it.
Wow.
It took a minute.
Shout out to old girl.
Haisa.
Haisa. Shout out to her. Wow, that's a good call.
Yep.
That's a good call.
Natural life. You
Yeah.
know, it's not red carpets and
Plans.
seminars,
Yeah.
and it's just life. And if you pay attention to it and feel it, you know what I mean? Some of the great moments happen that way, naturally. That's all I'm really saying.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. You also seem to be very humble. When I hear your name mentioned in conversations with other people within the industry, I never hear anything negative.
Really?
Yeah, never. I've never heard anything. You know, maybe I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
Throughout the other stories. Okay, but why is it important to stay grounded? I guess in the entertainment, we spoke about it a little bit before, of just like, you know, finding another outlet and different things like that. But staying grounded in the entertainment space.
Well, you know, I wish I could just say I've just been this humble guy my whole life, and you know, nice and kind, and you know, but this is not true. I think because I've been blessed to live, this means I've been blessed to learn, you know, and to learn from those mistakes. And again, we've had a lot of people. I've known a lot of people that have not made it this far, and I think you become humble through that. You know, I think you become humble to the fact that I'm still here. Why am I still here? And this person isn't. This great person isn't. Or, you know, and in my journey, I've been humbled. I didn't just humble myself. I've been humbled. I've lost things as well as gained them. So
you have a choice.
Yeah, I don't think I had a choice. I mean, yeah, I can't. I have tons of spirituality. My mother still, which is, I think is one of the things that she made sure I was, as a child, that I knew that I was special, that I was God's child, and, you know, those sort of things. So whenever something happened, I would come back to that place.
Right.
And get centered and then move forward.
Gotcha.
So I've taken many steps back to go forward. I understand what that is. And so it humbles you. That's all I can say.
We talked about you being not necessarily from Atlanta, but you being here for over 30 years. You've seen a lot of things that happen in Atlanta. But why ATL for music and entertainment, specifically now with film, TV, not only just the music scene? What's so special about this city, in your opinion?
I think Atlanta's been an amazing city since I moved here in '88. I mean, it seemed like a music town specifically. I mean, that's what I was looking for. You know what I mean? And radio, black people doing well here, and I thought I could compete. A lot of people were moving to New York at the time, specifically for hip hop, and I kind of got to stay in that space because that's all I was thinking about at that time. But I came here, and it just seemed like it was wide open for me to do something here.
Right.
And I think New York for me was a little too intimidating. So I don't know. I mean, I know what Atlanta is now, and it's crowded. It's a lot more fluff.
Yeah.
Too.
I
You know, we
agree.
talked about a whole bunch of people doing what they're probably just in the way. So we have that problem.
Trying to weed through
Weed through, and it wasn't that back then. It was much more of a smaller community. And if you did it, you did it probably because you loved it.
Right.
When you was MC or you had a studio or you worked in radio, it wasn't, you know, you didn't work in radio because you thought you might be on TV. You did it 9 times out of 10 because you loved it. If I showed you pictures of me in Atlanta nightclubs, late 80s, early 90s, suit and tie, or some suspenders, or the best little clothes I could put on, right? Because I wanted to DJ in the nightclubs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would be hip-hop at home,
Right.
you know? But, 21 years old in Atlanta, you want to be in a nightclub DJing? You gotta put some clothes on. You're not smoking weed in the club neither, you know what I mean? And that was Atlanta. So, I mean, I could talk all day about this great city. So I'm not surprised it is where it is,
Well,
But
how do you think the party culture has changed or shifted since you began DJing? Like, what's the difference? Because you just said a few things, but
Sure.
what's the difference? Is that anytime I talk to someone who came up during the time of like So Def and all of that, like they always talk about how parties were like just slapping, and like now you go to a party and nobody's dancing.
Yeah.
Or it's just not about what it was about.
I think every generation is going to have to, obviously goes through and grows and evolves, right? It just so happens that the tempo of music was more fun. If you talk early 90s in Atlanta, and Miami bass and Atlanta bass, there was that energy.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be sitting chilling. And we didn't have social media and the distractions of the phone. And then it went to the bounce era, you know. And then from the bounce, it went more of the trap. Also, strip club culture influenced and made its way inside of records.
That's true.
Okay? Now, strip club culture at the time, what I'm talking about, still was mostly men in the club, women dancing, and it wasn't a dance environment. As the strip clubs got more popular and people
Started.
men and women and people who didn't necessarily care about dancing naked women, they're in there because the celebrities in there, that's what the place to be. It became about standing around. Follow that.
That's real.
Now, once that makes its way into the music, because again, now, the way music is produced is always a reflection of what's going on in the club.
Yeah, that too.
Okay? So now, when I hear trap music, I envision a club where nobody's moving and dancing, because that's what it does. It's depressing in a way, tempo and energy-wise, okay? Not, I don't like it or I don't recognize what it is. So it is what it is. So now let me say this. For those in the club, 21, 25, whatever. Somewhere down the line, you're going to want more. You're going to want more than McDonald's. You're going to want it. Because let me tell you now, I can be in a young club, I can be in a young environment, and everybody's social media. We turned up. Okay, then the phone is off and you're back like this. You want to know what grown folks do? Well, folks, when I go do the Tom Joyner cruise, which I've seen the meme talk about how old that is. Stay with me, right? That's what an old chick. Okay, cool. Partying 8 days a week on a ship with no trouble, no fights, tons of artists, right? I'm just using that Tom Joyner cruise as an example of the way older people, when you get older, you start to appreciate life and music and everything more, and you want to get the most out of it before you check up out of here, right? You don't play games like this. You're not in the clubs faking it. And that's what I see. So that's the difference. But that's y'all, because I can come and play with that little world and not go do the real thing.
Yeah.
Go, go to Aruba here, then.
Yeah, I think there's a space for both within my generation. That there are parties that people are like actually dancing, like they have like the wine culture, like, you know, that whole thing that a lot of DJs, I don't know if you're familiar with, like Work Crew, they're doing versus like the club culture. I just think it's interesting.
Sure.
It's definitely interesting. So I want to talk to you too about this because I didn't hit on this. Your production credits. You're known as a producer for some many projects, I feel like. So can you talk about the production credits that you do have? Maybe one of your most memorable ones, something that really excited you?
Well, it all comes from a DJ place. Okay. So the DJing place, so my discography comes from scratching and performing on records, almost like old musicians would do, you know, guest appearance by disc guitars.
Right.
And that's how,
gotcha.
That's where I come from. I come from, you know how to scratch and you can perform on a record, because that's the way hip-hop was in the 80s. So part of my discography is that. Remixes come from DJ culture, meaning the record is okay, let me put some more hump in it, change the tempo a little bit, and get paid for it.
Gotcha.
So I remixed Ghetto Mafia, I remixed Trick Daddy in the Wind with CeeLo and Big Boy. And then there's production, because there's a part of me that says, oh, I want to make music too.
Yeah.
So wherever I could place a record, I would. Then there's also what I've done as a publisher. That publishing is, I like the track, I had a relationship with somebody else, I put those things together. Like Wildfire is a producer I put with Ludacris, Theater of the Mind. Gotcha. So I do it for hip hop, Nas, Jay-Z, Luda, Wildfire, and Nabs. But I'm in the back. I put it together.
Oh, okay. Like,
so
like an A&R maybe, or like, is that what would that?
That can be under A&R too. Yeah.
Dope.
Yeah.
That's cool. So what's your relationship with Patchwerk? Because if you've been around for, you know, the Atlanta hip hop scene, then I'm sure that's why you're in this space today. What's your relationship with Patchwerk, and like how are you involved? How did this impact you?
You know what's funny? I should have worn my Patchwerk jacket, which is in mint condition.
You have a Patchwerk jacket
from 1996, 97 that I got from Kurt.
What?
Yes.
That's dope.
I started working with Patchwork as a studio, as a label. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
That had the artist Mean Green, which I put some scratches on this record, one of his songs, and Razzcast, who I had a really great relationship with. It's really because, again, Atlanta is that small, tight community, and when we had Hot 97.5, which is Atlanta's first rap station, which is Hot 107.9 now, we just had a direct relationship with the studios, you know. And Razzcast and Mean Green are two guys that stood out and that I worked with. And then, of course, my man. I'm sorry, I can't think of his name.
It's all good. I have no idea.
It'll come to me.
It'll come to you.
Yeah, it'll come to me. But yeah, so a long-standing relationship with Patchwork, and seeing Patchwork grow, you know, from a label to a monster studio, you know, and even when I walk through and I see all the plaques and all the things that's happened over these years, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, but that's Atlanta. You know, you plant seeds here and they just
blossom.
Yes.
That's dope. I appreciate that. What do you think are some important traits to have as a successful DJ, or just a successful person in the music industry in terms of like the artist side, personality side?
I think it's the same old, but maybe some new people or younger people don't know what they are. But relationships are key, and know your craft. Because if you know your craft, then you will also simultaneously know what it is you don't know, which means you'll get out of the way of yourself.
Right.
Because, you know, to spend a lot of time doing something that you're not good at, but you feel that because you're putting a bunch of energy into it,
you'll get better.
It'll get better. You know, I'm going to keep hustling. You know, if you hustle manure, it's going to be a ton of manure. That's, you know, so find what your talent is, what your gift is. That way it becomes easy. Put hard work behind something that's easily your talent, you're going to be successful. There's no doubt about it. And if you keep relationships, meaning you don't do things just because you think that person can do something for you. Do something because it's something you want to do. And then I think you'll find that that'll be reciprocated, you know?
Absolutely.
Keep good relationships.
I agree.
Yeah.
We spoke a little bit about how Atlanta nightclub culture has changed, or like party scene has changed, but talk about the nightclubs here in Atlanta in the 90s.
Sure. First of all, we had 112.
Yes.
And 112 was legendary. They had the grandfather clause, which meant they had the ability to stay open all night until the next morning, 6, 7. They closed at 6 or 7, but I guess they could have just stayed open. Because what difference does it make, right? So there was nothing touching it. I think that's a big thing that Atlanta had going that most cities did not have going.
Right.
And then there was SO, and then there was this club called Kaya, where Kaya was a real special thing for me because we talked about me doing In the Lab with Nabs as my radio show. Well, I would rent out Kaya on a Sunday night. They allowed me to rent this club out.
Really?
And so I basically transformed it into the lab. I wore, the surgical mask. I had the little light kit.
Right.
I had an operating table, and then, of course, I had the turntables. And, and I kind of grew the concept from there. I probably had 60, 70 people the first night. But in the course of 3 months, this night exploded. And it became, to me, a very legendary night that people to this day on elevators, I don't know who they are. They just say, Nabs, that Kaya. I'd be like, oh, yeah, you was there, And I documented the whole thing, by the way. Pictures, video, the whole thing. And it's part of my documentary thing that I want to continue to release. But it was a very special time, and it went alongside with my club night. My radio show. So my radio show was In the Lab with Nabs, and I had Old School Sundays with DJ Nabs at Club Kaya. But theatrically,
it was a scene.
It was the lab. I got dancers, did nurses, did all of that. And then eventually, it turned into just a kind of, I don't want to say a regular club, but eventually I dropped the theatrics of the costumes, but we had the acts. Bought Jay-Z. I had Jay-Z there for free.
Jay-Z.
Filmed it.
Wow.
He had released Hard Knock Life, and he was underground at the time, but Hard Knock Life was a commercial success for him. So that was the beginning of him becoming a star. But we had him at Kaya. doing a 45-minute show.
Wow.
We had tons of people, old school, and at that time, Jay-Z was new school. He was a new artist, relatively speaking. So yeah, it was an amazing period, and from there, then it went to the Kaya closed, and I got fired from the radio station, and
Oh wow.
I saw clubs go from that to that level of the no dance floor in the club space, and the DJ pushed off in the corner space, and the VIP being the stage now, and the place everybody wants to stand, which lends itself really to the culture you guys are kind of in now, the clubs with no dance floor.
You're
That's
just
just
saying what it is.
That's
I
what
know.
it is.
It's
Like,
the truth. It sucks.
yeah.
That's interesting. So how did that make you feel after like all of this was shifting? Like where were you? Like where was your head at in that time? Like club closed down, or you were doing these legendary parties, and then you weren't at the radio station anymore. Like where were you mentally?
Man, and I forgot to mention, I recorded an album on Columbia Records in the lab of Nabs, the live album, which was recorded live at Kaya. So I also lost my record deal too. I got fired, I lost the record deal, and then I lost the club night. It's kind of how it happened. And really, that's kind of, I was partying, I was kicking it, and that's kind of when I probably fell more into depression, drank more, and went through a few years of living that life and not really knowing what to do next. And I did start that production, I'm a produce now thing, and was able to get some work done, but I really had to get to the sober space first, and that took me a while.
I feel it.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
Well, people can learn from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with your several contributions to not only Atlanta but just the hip hop industry in general, do you believe that the hip hop community or the industry loves you the way you love hip hop?
Does the industry love me? I don't know.
You kind of touched on it a little bit about you fighting for your place in the rock doc. So
Sure.
I'm curious to know if because you love hip hop. It's obvious. It's evident in what your moves that you make. So do you feel like they love you back? We love you back.
Well, I guess the short answer is no, but I would add that because I pay attention to the forefathers that still here, Grandmaster Flash and Big Daddy Kane, and I see that in Flash's instance, he's starting to get acknowledged. Big Daddy Kane is starting to be acknowledged. There's even a video of him circulating right now. There's an old video where he talks about in hip hop, the forefathers are not acknowledged. It's more like pushed to the side, like you don't mean anything. So I live in their space too. So I don't always stay in my own space of my own self, But so I think about it. I think it's a general problem, but I believe in the solution, and the solution being that you put your stories wherever you can put them, books, movies, documentaries, because they will outlast the current trends, and also those that's experiencing the current trends will find themselves in these positions before they know it. Maybe sooner than later, like next year, forgotten about, right?
Yeah.
Because the bad part about this generation, in my opinion, because of the everything's easily accessible and disposable, that the shelf life for everything that artists are doing now may look bigger, but it's out the door quicker.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
yeah.
I agree. So I think people recognize you, and you mentioned it too several times, like for your scratching, using those turntables, like as a DJ, real DJ.
Right.
And now with technology changing, you don't really need that, and probably the reason why everybody can do it, right?
Right.
Or think they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So with the technology changing, as that was happening, were you changing with it? Were you kind of like trying to avoid that, or did you just kind of go with it and say this is a little bit easier?
Right. I definitely went with it, meaning, and I'll go through it really quickly. From vinyl, went to CDs. with CDs, there came CDJs, which were you were able to manipulate the laser to simulate scratching with it, which I thought was exciting. I bought it, and the first version I would say was maybe 80%. Then it came out with the second and the third version of the CDJ Pioneer joint, and the third one got better. Well, I went to Europe to do a gig, and they didn't have the CDJs I requested, and I got back on turntables. Wait a minute, I'm missing something. Wait a minute, CDJs, then they came with the laptop.
Right.
Where now...
Serato.
Right, so Serato, so then I use CDJ, the disc with the CDJ, the Serato disc, and manipulated the MP3s with CDJs.
Right.
Then I went to Europe. They did not have my CDJs. I was pissed. They gave me some turntables. I put my hands back on those turntables, and I was like, oh my God, I missed it. With the turntables, with the Serato disc, and the laptop. Because we don't want to get, I don't miss carrying records.
Right.
So we ain't even got to go there. Came back, sold my CDJs, and I've been using turntables ever since.
Oh.
So now they've come out with controllers, which, in my opinion, are worse than CDJs. And I didn't even consider CDJs to be bad. But controllers, I don't like them.
Yeah.
And I use them every now and then when I'm in a situation where it's just, I'm doing a set so short that it doesn't make sense for me to go through all those changes. But turntables are traditional. I think if you're a piano player, there's something about the grand piano that's always going to be organic, and it's got the pedals and it's got the weighted keys, and it trains your fingers, muscle memory, to be very good. And so yeah, you can get on a little keyboard. And I think that's what turntables are. They are the grand piano as an instrument of hip hop, you know. So
that's quotable. So speak on the Mad DJ Academy.
Yeah.
That's something that Mad DJ, you've coined a lot of different phrases. I think it's cool too.
Yeah.
Just like that, surrounded by your brand and what you're doing. So tell us about the Mad DJ Academy.
Well, you remember when I talked about paying attention?
Yes.
Even how I got to in the lab with Nabs. Just got to pay attention. You can get the answer. The Mad DJ, I was coined that because I would talk so directly about these DJs that are terrible on the turntables. And it didn't matter to me if they were celebrities or not, or friends or not. I was like, this is whack. You don't belong on the turntables. So eventually, my mentor, Mike Malden, said, Nabs, one thing about it, where you are in your life, you got to pass it down. So I came up, we talked about it. We came up with the Mad DJ Academy. We also did an Ultimate Mad DJ competition. And shout out to DJ Double J. He's the first winner of that competition. We gave him a boxing belt and everything.
Oh, that's dope.
And from there, part of my mission through the Mad DJ Academy is just to pass down the fundamentals and the lessons of DJing, and the why. Why do you do something? I watch people say, I'm gonna try to on Instagram. I'm act like I'm scratching because this is obviously what real DJs do. Why are you doing it? Why that sound? Why there at that particular time? It's the why that I think needs to be shared to young DJs. And so that's what the Mad DJ Academy is about. It's about sharing that information, what I mean, and working here at Patchwork to get that job done.
Awesome. That's what's up. You're doing a lot.
It's a lifestyle.
A lifestyle.
So, you sleep, you eat, and you do it, and you repeat.
You got a good balance, it seems like. Like with the boxing and the DJing, you got your show back on the airwaves, of course. That's dope. You gonna be touring anywhere soon? You said you still tour with the Brat.
Yeah, I do tour with the Brat. I still go overseas when I can. One thing about when you're on full-time radio, which is 6 days a week, it limits the travel.
Yeah.
But I still do things like the Tom Joyner cruise. I do Capital Jazz cruise. So I do 2 cruises a year as far as DJing on these cruises, which are built-in vacations, which means I really don't have vacations.
Yeah.
Truth be told, but to have a paid work vacation, you gotta love that.
That's fine.
Yeah. And in any event I can, any artist. I mean, I did the A-Town Music Fest with the Youngbloods as their music director. I was happy to be a part of their reunion.
That's dope.
So I just keep tons of relationships with people, and I'm there for whatever. I mean, I could go do a show with Jermaine tomorrow if he calls, or Sierra. Sierra called me to do. I did a wedding in the UK last year, but I also did a baby shower.
Oh, wow.
And, I don't do baby showers per se, but if Sierra and Russell wanted me to do that for them, I thought it was special. So, It's whatever I can do, you know.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you sitting down with me.
Thank you. I enjoyed you. You know what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. Tell them where they can find you, though, on social media. Got to stay active in these streets.
Sure. You got to stay active.
You got to.
So it's DJ Nabs in Lab, INLAB on Twitter and Instagram, DJNabs.com, and themaddj.com is where, you know, I have my shirts and stuff.
Okay, cool. And we look forward to seeing what you have in terms of those documentaries. I'm excited to see all of the 90s footage.
It's like a time machine.
That's dope. That's dope.
I'm serious.
I can believe it. I'm excited to see it. And as always, thank y'all for tuning in to the I Do Music podcast. You can find me at Sammy Approved on all social media platforms. Thank you so
You're welcome.
much. Sonically superior.